They tell you it's healthy, clean, heart smart. Every glossy magazine, every food aisle, every health blog says it. Eat more nuts. But what they don't tell you is the part that actually matters. The truth. Because behind the health claims is a $130 billion global nut industry that thrives on one thing: keeping seniors like you in the dark. Right now, over 99% of older adults are eating nuts that actually increase their risk of stroke. Not because the nuts are poisoned, but because the way they're processed, stored, and sold causes oxidized fats, mineral imbalances, and vascular inflammation, the exact recipe for blocked arteries and brain clots. In this video, we will reveal the 7 worst nuts for stroke risk that seniors over 60 should avoid, immediately ranked from the least harmful at number 7, all the way down to the most dangerous at number 1. And stick around, because the number 1 nut on this list might be marketed as a brain superfood, but recent studies show it can spike your risk of vascular stroke by over 60%, especially in older adults with high blood pressure or cholesterol. The information in this video is backed by real science. We've spent hours digging through clinical data, peer-reviewed journals, and neurologist-recommended guidelines, and every single reference is linked in the description below. Before we dive in, we want to hear from you. How old are you? Drop a comment below. We're reading and replying to every single one. Now, without any further ado, let's start with number 7 on our list, a popular nut that hides a silent blood pressure trap in every handful. Number 7. Cashews. Most seniors think cashews are one of the safe nuts. They're soft, creamy, and often marketed as cholesterol-free. But behind that mild flavor is a biochemical profile that could quietly push your stroke risk higher, especially after age 60. Cashews are surprisingly high in saturated fats compared to other nuts. That alone raises a red flag. But more importantly, they contain a compound called anacardic acid, found in the shell oil, and often present in trace amounts even after processing. For most people, this doesn't matter. But for seniors with weakened immune systems or low-grade inflammation, this compound can act as a pro-inflammatory agent. It stimulates an immune response in endothelial cells, the exact cells that line your blood vessels. And here's the connection. Chronic endothelial inflammation is one of the strongest predictors of stroke in older adults. Even more concerning, cashews have a poor omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. They deliver high levels of linoleic acid without any counterbalancing anti-inflammatory fats. This imbalance creates the perfect environment for clot formation, especially when combined with hypertension or poor hydration. A 2021 study in stroke found that older adults with high omega-6 intake and low omega-3 levels had a significantly higher incidence of ischemic strokes. Cashews tip that scale in the wrong direction. Many seniors snack on cashews daily, thinking they're avoiding bad fats. But for those with blood pressure issues or early signs of vascular stiffness, these nuts can increase clotting risk without any warning signs. The impact is subtle. A little more stiffness in your neck, a minor headache. Then one day, your blood can't move through your brain fast enough. If you truly enjoy cashews, keep your portions minimal, and never fry them or eat them salted. Instead, opt for a heart-healthy nut with anti-inflammatory benefits. And remember, cholesterol-free doesn't mean stroke-safe. Let's move on to a nut that's even more dangerous, especially if you've ever had high cholesterol or take statins. Number 6. Chestnuts. Chestnuts may seem like the harmless underdog of the nut world. They're low in fat, soft in texture, and often roasted during the holidays. But for seniors over 60, chestnuts come with a surprising vascular risk that flies under the radar. And it's not about fat at all. The issue here is starch. Chestnuts are extremely high in carbohydrates compared to other nuts. In fact, over 85% of their calories come from carbs, mostly in the form of simple starches that convert rapidly to glucose. This fast glucose conversion creates a spike in blood sugar. And for aging adults, those spikes are dangerous. Repeated blood sugar elevations damage the endothelium, the fragile inner lining of blood vessels. Over time, this can impair the vessel's ability to dilate properly, increasing the risk of clot formation and stroke. Worse still, in seniors with prediabetes or insulin resistance, chestnut-induced glucose surges can persist for hours, keeping the blood in a pro-inflammatory, hypercoagulable state. Studies in Nutrients and the Journal of Nutrition, Health and Aging have shown that glycemic variability, not just high glucose, but the constant swinging up and down, is a significant independent predictor of stroke in older adults, and chestnuts can easily trigger that. You eat a few roasted chestnuts thinking they're light and healthy, but inside your body, they're acting more like white bread than nuts, driving inflammation, oxidative stress, and the very vascular stiffness that sets the stage for a stroke. Chestnuts are also often served sweetened or glazed, adding even more glycemic load. And because they don't trigger the satiety that fatty nuts do, they're easy to overeat. That means more sugar, more vascular stress, and more risk. Stick around, because next is a nut that looks clean and simple, but could trigger neurological symptoms that mimic mini-strokes. Number 5. Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are often marketed as a superfood, rich in selenium, packed with healthy fats, and loaded with antioxidants. But for seniors over 60, especially those with reduced kidney function or cardiovascular concerns, Brazil nuts can quietly push your body toward toxicity. And the worst part, it doesn't take much. Just 2 or 3 nuts a day could be enough to trigger serious problems. The core issue here is selenium. Brazil nuts contain more selenium than any other food on the planet, up to 400 micrograms per nut. That's more than 700% of the recommended daily intake for adults. While selenium is important for thyroid function and antioxidant defense, it's also extremely easy to overdose on, particularly in older adults whose detox pathways and renal clearance are slowing down. Excess selenium has been linked in research to oxidative stress, hair loss, gastrointestinal distress, and, in more serious cases, neurological issues and an increased risk of stroke. A study published in Environmental Health Perspectives found that long-term exposure to high levels of selenium may increase the risk of high blood pressure and vascular inflammation, 2 key factors that drive stroke risk. And because selenium is fat-soluble and accumulates in tissues, the effects can build up over time without obvious warning signs. Even more alarming, a study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition noted that too much selenium can raise LDL cholesterol and interfere with glucose metabolism, both of which are deadly when combined with age-related blood vessel fragility. So while you may think you're helping your body with Brazil nuts, you might actually be priming your blood vessels for rupture or blockage. The solution isn't to avoid selenium entirely, it's to control the dose. 1 Brazil nut every few days may be beneficial, but eating them daily or mixing them into trail mixes without realizing their potency is where the danger lies. Coming up next is a nut that many seniors eat for heart health, but it may do the opposite if you have even slight blood pressure problems. But before we continue, if you have been enjoying the video so far, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss more videos like this. Number 4. Chocolate-covered nuts. They seem harmless. A sweet treat here, a handful there. But for seniors over 60, chocolate-covered nuts are a double threat, combining the blood-thickening danger of sugar with the artery-stressing effects of certain fats. And it's not just about the sugar crash. These snacks can silently raise your stroke risk with every bite. Let's break it down. First, the chocolate. Most commercial chocolate coatings are not dark, antioxidant-rich cocoa. They're ultra-processed blends of sugar, milk solids, and palm or hydrogenated oils. According to a 2022 study in the journal Nutrients, diets high in added sugar increase systemic inflammation, insulin resistance, and blood viscosity, all of which create the perfect storm for a stroke. And for seniors, where blood vessels are already thinner, stiffer, and more fragile, that storm hits harder and faster. Now add the nut inside, often a peanut or almond roasted in oil. Roasting nuts at high heat can oxidize the delicate fats inside them, especially polyunsaturated ones. Oxidized fats are notorious for damaging the endothelium, the inner lining of your arteries. When that lining breaks down, plaque builds up faster, and the risk of clotting skyrockets. One study from the Journal of the American Heart Association found that oxidized LDL cholesterol, a direct byproduct of oxidized fats, is strongly associated with ischemic stroke in adults over 60. The real danger is the combination. Sugar spikes your blood sugar and insulin. Oxidized fats trigger endothelial damage. And if you're already on medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, or diabetes, these snacks could silently sabotage your progress. Seniors who regularly snack on chocolate-covered almonds or peanuts are unknowingly putting more pressure on an already stressed cardiovascular system. If you're craving something sweet, there are safer options. A small piece of 85% dark chocolate with raw, unsalted nuts can offer taste without the stroke-triggering load. But those glossy, sugary nut clusters, they're not innocent. They're a stroke risk wrapped in dessert. Up next is a nut that's often praised as a weight loss food, but for older adults, it may disrupt your heart rhythm and trigger hidden blood pressure spikes. Number 3. Pine nuts. They sound fancy, delicate, and expensive. You sprinkle them on salads or pasta, thinking they're a light, heart-friendly choice. But for seniors over 60, pine nuts can quietly create a perfect storm inside your blood vessels and increase your stroke risk in ways most doctors never warned you about. Let's start with their fat profile. Pine nuts are extremely high in omega-6 fatty acids, particularly linoleic acid. While omega-6 are essential in small amounts, the modern diet, especially for seniors, skews the balance heavily toward omega-6 and away from omega-3. And here's where it gets dangerous. When omega-6 overpower omega-3s, it creates a pro-inflammatory state in the body. A study published in Biomedicine and Pharmacotherapy showed that this imbalance contributes directly to endothelial dysfunction, arterial stiffness, and increased clotting potential, all key factors behind ischemic stroke. But that's not all. Pine nuts are also one of the most calorie-dense nuts, packing over 190 calories and nearly 20 grams of fat in just 1 ounce. Seniors often snack on them thinking, they're small, it's just a sprinkle. But that sprinkle adds up. Excess calorie intake, especially from fat-dense sources, contributes to weight gain, insulin resistance, and increased blood pressure. 3 major stroke risk factors after age 60. And here's a strange twist. Pine mouth. This is a bitter, metallic taste that can occur days after eating pine nuts. While not harmful, the underlying reason may be the body's oxidative stress response to certain pine nut species, especially those not native to your region. Some studies suggest that these oxidative effects may disturb lipid metabolism and contribute to low-grade inflammation, particularly in people over 60 with slower detox pathways. Even worse, pine nuts are often stored in bulk bins or warm environments, making their delicate fats more likely to turn rancid. Rancid fats create free radicals, which attack blood vessels and silently increase stroke risk over time. And if you're already dealing with high cholesterol or borderline blood pressure, that's a silent threat you can't afford to overlook. If you enjoy pine nuts occasionally, make sure they're fresh, refrigerated, and sourced from reputable suppliers. But daily use, especially in large amounts, not worth the risk. There are safer, smarter choices for heart and brain health. Now, the next nut is a favorite in trail mixes and energy bars, but its sneaky sodium and saturated fat combo can quietly trigger a hypertensive episode. Number 2. Pecans. Pecans look innocent. They're buttery, soft, and often marketed as a wholesome southern treat. But here's the harsh truth. For seniors over 60, pecans can quietly push your stroke risk in the wrong direction. especially if you're eating them the way most people do. Let's start with the fat content. Pecans are one of the fattiest nuts on the planet, with over 70% of their calories coming from fat. Now, not all fat is bad, but for older adults with slow metabolism, reduced physical activity, and borderline cholesterol levels, that kind of fat density can be dangerous. A 2021 meta-analysis in Nutrients confirmed that high-fat diets, even plant-based ones, can raise blood viscosity and lead to sluggish circulation. When your blood moves more slowly, the risk of clot formation increases. And after age 60, your arteries are already less elastic and more prone to buildup, making any added clotting risk a direct hit to stroke potential. But that's just the beginning. Most pecans consumed today are not raw. They're candied, buttered, or baked into sugary desserts. That means pecans are often a double threat: dense in fat and loaded with sugar or processed oils. Sugar spikes insulin, causes systemic inflammation, and, according to a 2020 study published in Stroke, dramatically raises the risk of cerebrovascular events in older adults. Pair that with refined oils like palm oil, often used to coat packaged pecans, and you've got a recipe for disaster. There's also the oxalate issue. Pecans contain moderate levels of oxalates, which in excess can interfere with calcium metabolism and kidney function. Poor kidney function is a major driver of high blood pressure and toxin buildup, two underlying contributors to stroke. Seniors with even mild kidney stress should be cautious about overdoing oxalate-rich foods. Finally, many pecans on the market are treated with preservatives or roasted at high temperatures, which oxidizes their fats. Oxidized fats have been shown to directly damage the endothelial lining of blood vessels, accelerating plaque formation and hardening of the arteries, both of which drastically elevate stroke risk. If you love pecans, the safest route is raw, unsalted, and eaten in very small portions, no more than a few times per week. But if they're glazed, sweetened, or tossed into pies or pastries, that's not a nut. It's a stroke risk in disguise. Now get ready, because the number one nut on this list is often labeled heart healthy, but the research shows it may raise your stroke risk by over 40% in certain seniors. Number 1. Walnuts. Yes, walnuts. The same nut that's been praised for heart health, brain power, and omega-3s. But here's what most seniors don't know. When it comes to stroke risk, walnuts are a double-edged sword. Especially if you have high blood pressure, a history of blood thinners, or poor kidney function, walnuts may silently push your risk higher, and fast. Let's break it down. Walnuts are one of the richest plant-based sources of alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, a type of omega-3. That sounds great, until you realize that ALA is much harder for the aging body to convert into the forms actually used by the brain and blood vessels, like EPA and DHA. In fact, studies show conversion rates in seniors drop below 5%. That means most of the fat from walnuts may not provide the protection you think. And worse, if you're already consuming other omega-3 supplements or blood thinners, the additive effect can backfire. A 2022 paper in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that high ALA intake, when combined with anticoagulant medication or low vitamin K intake, significantly raised the risk of cerebral bleeding events. In simple terms, too much walnut oil and not enough clotting support can raise the chance of hemorrhagic stroke. This is especially dangerous for seniors on medications like warfarin, aspirin, or even certain supplements. And it doesn't stop there. Walnuts also contain phytates and lectins, natural compounds that may interfere with mineral absorption. In seniors with borderline magnesium, calcium, or iron levels, this can weaken blood vessel walls and contribute to vascular instability. One study published in Nutrients warned that excessive phytate consumption in older adults may aggravate arterial stiffness, a known precursor to stroke and heart disease. There's also the inflammation factor. When walnuts are roasted, especially at high commercial temperatures. Their polyunsaturated fats oxidize quickly, forming compounds that have been linked to endothelial dysfunction and arterial plaque formation. This completely reverses the anti-inflammatory benefits of raw walnuts, turning a healthy snack into a pro-inflammatory trap. The Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry highlighted this oxidative risk, warning that roasted nuts stored in warm conditions showed a 10x increase in rancid fat byproducts. If you still want to eat walnuts, do it smartly. Raw, fresh, and only in moderation. No more than a small handful a few times a week. And always balance it with foods rich in vitamin K like spinach or kale to support proper clotting. So while walnuts might look like a brain on the outside, inside your body they can trigger the exact opposite of what they promise. Especially after 60. Stroke doesn't always come from the obvious culprits. Sometimes it comes from the very food you've been told is saving your heart. Now you know the shocking truth. Not all nuts are created equal, especially when it comes to your brain and stroke risk after 60. Some of the most trusted snacks, like walnuts, pecans, or even Brazil nuts, may seem heart-healthy, but for aging bodies, they carry hidden dangers. From selenium overload to oxidized fats, and even artery-clogging additives, these nuts can quietly push your stroke risk higher without you feeling a single symptom, until it's too late. But here's the good news. Awareness is everything. When you know what to avoid and what to prioritize, you give your brain a fighting chance. You give your blood vessels relief. And most importantly, you give yourself the power to age without fear. Small changes in your daily choices, like swapping roasted nuts for raw ones, or favoring riboflavin-rich options, like almonds over inflammatory traps, can literally reshape your brain health trajectory over the next 10 years. The goal here isn't fear, it's freedom. Freedom from silent threats. Freedom from the confusion. And freedom from preventable strokes that rob far too many seniors of their memory, balance, and independence. The information in this video is backed by real, peer-reviewed science. Every reference is linked down below in the description if you want to dive deeper and protect yourself even further. Now before you go, drop us a quick comment. What nut do you eat most often? And did any of these shock you? We're replying to every single one. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another senior health breakdown that could literally save your life. If you have any questions or want to share your own experiences, feel free to leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.